Good afternoon, everyone. I am C. Amit Kedia. Welcome all of you on behalf of Jaipur branch of CIRC of ICAI. We have today our coordinator CA Lokesh Kasat, our convener CA Nikita Kayal, our eminent speaker CA Nikita Maheshwari with us for today's session. And now I like to invite CA Lokesh Kasat to further address and welcome the session.
Thank you, Amit. Respected today's speaker Nikita Maheshwari ma'am, convener of the session Amit Kedia ji, C. Amit Kedia ji, and CA Nikita Kayal. Thank you that you have been a convener in this program, and I would like to welcome all the participants on behalf of Jaipur branch. Today, our chairman sir is not available because of some other occupancies, so that's why I am here, being the former chairman of the institute. जयपुर ब्रांच इज ऑलवेज फॉर द मेंबर्स, और हमारी ये कोशिश रही है शुरू से कि मेंबर्स के लिए डिफरेंट टाइप्स के हम लोग प्रोग्राम करवाते रहे. और इन दैट वी हैव टुडेज सेशन, वी हैव अ वेरी एमिनेंट स्पीकर विद अस, श्री निकिता महेश्वरी जी. She has also written books and associated with GST very closely, and I think Nikita Kayal will tell, or Amit will tell about the profile of ma'am. Friend, as we all know that there are many changes in GST, and even there are very much areas related to conventional and non-conventional practice. So at Jaipur branch, we are taking both types of topic, means which are helpful for member in regular day-to-day life, and also those topics which are going to help in future also. And every participant here, I will say, is a listener, as well as he or she can give the value addition to us, means what we want. If any one of you wants to take or wants to give us any type of topic that you want a particular session on this particular topic, we would invite the members from industry, or either from corporates or from any of the area, means we will identify the relevant expert and bring it to the Jaipur branch platform. So this is our main objective at Jaipur branch. That's why I have said that Jaipur branch is always for the member. So again, I will welcome you all on behalf of Jaipur branch of ICAI. So thank you very much.
I'd like to invite our convener CA Nikita Kayal to further address the session.
Thank you, Amit sir. A very good afternoon, everyone. A big thanks to one and all for being here with us today. As we are well acquainted with the topic of today's session, which stresses more on practical or pragmatic aspects rather than bookish fundamentals, I'm sure that everyone joining us here would benefit themselves immensely with the discussion that we are going to host here. I feel honored to be given this opportunity to introduce our today's speaker, C. Nikita Maheshwari, who is an indirect tax professional with an extensive experience in service tax and GST. She is based in Pune, and she is a published author of Gst Assessment and Audit, Untangling Complexity. In the past, she has worked with Big Four firms for an extensive period and bagged several awards during her tenure there. She has led and executed GST transition for various MNCs in India as well. She is also an avid reader and technical content writer. Various interactions with tax authorities, coupled with a consulting experience of over 8 years, have not only provided her with substantial exposure in understanding the government's approach toward assessment and audit, but also given her an inside-out view of the industry. Currently, she is working on GST advisory and compliances for various clients, which includes unicorn companies as well. So, without wasting much time, I would like to welcome our speaker for today, Nikita Maheshwari, who is immensely skilled in indirect taxes, including GST, to start today's session.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the ICAI Jaipur branch, Amit ji and Lokesh ji, And I think today is a very special day for me because ICAI Jaipur is my alma mater, my home branch. So even if I'm based out of Pune, there is a special thread connecting me to ICAI Jaipur. So thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to conduct today's session.
Ma'am, it's our pleasure to have you here.
No, I think the pleasure is mutual, sir. Can we start, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. I'll just share my screen. Let me know if it is visible. Is it visible in the full screen mode?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. Can you just make it to PPT mode?
Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'm just figuring it out.
I think, ma'am, you can just press Shift F5. It will.
Yeah, I am trying to do that. Unfortunately, it's not going into the PPT mode. Just give me a minute. I'll stop
Yes.
share and share again. Is there any way where I can hide this ribbon? So I'll be able to do it.
Ma'am, if it is not getting in PPT mode, you can just take it this way also. It is very much visible.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So, good afternoon, friends, and welcome everybody to this session of GST Audits and Assessment. While Lokesh ji invited me to conduct this session, we had a discussion that what should be the topic, and both of us mutually agreed that we should do a presentation on GST Audits and Assessments. Why GST Audits and Assessments? I would like to give you a brief background on that. So all of us are, reading all these news stories, on social media, newspapers, WhatsApp. Investigation हो रहा है, कहीं पे search हो रहा है, कहीं पे seizure हो रहा है. Recently, I think yesterday only I was reading about Bharat Pay. So there is an evasion case going on, GST evasion case going on Bharat Pay. A couple of months back, it was Bundle Technologies, which is commonly known as Swiggy, जिससे हम खाना order करते हैं e-commerce operator. उनके against एक inspection चल रहा था. So, all of these investigation and search cases that you keep reading about, you are bound to think कि यहाँ इतनी बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, यहाँ तक पहुंचने से पहले क्या इनका असेसमेंट नहीं हुआ होगा, क्या ऑडिट नहीं हुआ होगा? How come they've reached to a level where they have to the authorities are actually seizing their premises and searching their premises and doing enforcement actions, and DGGI is getting involved? Why? So I think a very simple answer to that would be that audits and assessments are the first step for any kind of adjudication or litigation. If that is handled correctly, I think you may not even land up into a space where investigation or search or seizures could get invoked against you. So छोटी सी बात ये है कि अगर हम हमारे ऑडिट्स और असेसमेंट्स को थोड़ा सा सीरियसली लेंगे, थोड़ा सा प्लान्ड तरीके से एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे फॉर अस, फॉर आवर क्लाइंट्स और whoever it is that we are doing for, I think things will get very simple, and the regime will not seem as draconian as we talk about it. So again, why GST audits and assessment? I think a couple of days back, Mr. Vivek Jory, the picture that you see on the screen, parallelly आपका return file होता जाता है जैसे जैसे आपका assessment होता जाता है. However, we are in a different regime. We are in a self-assessment regime, wherein first you assess your taxes, you file your returns, and at a later point in time, a post-mortem analysis is done by way of assessments. 2 years, 3 years down the line, or maybe 1 year down the line, the officers will come up and do your assessment. And that is also not, it's not a mandatory thing. It may or may not happen for all assessees. So this is a self-assessment regime. Just to give you an example, India, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, all these countries are covered under the self-assessment regime. अगर हम official assessment regime की बात करें तो वहाँ पे सिंगापुर cover होता है. तो सिंगापुर में live assessment होता है जैसे जैसे आप return भरते जाते हैं. So yeah, when we do our own assessment, it is self-assessment under Section 59. When the revenue authorities are doing it, there are basically 5 types of assessments. We will discuss all of them in detail. But just to give you a brief idea of what we are going to discuss is, number 1, provisional assessment, scrutiny of returns, best judgment assessment, and summary assessment. Moving on, so the first topic that we're going to discuss today is self-assessment regime. So self-assessment regime, जैसे हमने पिछली स्लाइड में बात की, हम हमारा टैक्स खुद डिटरमिन करेंगे, अपनी रिटर्न खुद भरेंगे, and later on your proper officer can come and question it or may even accept it. I mean, it's not always necessary that there will be a question. They could also accept it. सबसे पहली condition self-assessment regime के लिए जो लगती है, that is that you need to maintain your accounts correctly, right? If somebody, if an officer tomorrow will come, आपके premises पे आते हैं और बोलते हैं कि चलिए आपने बताइए कैसे रिटर्न भरा है, what is the procedure that you have taken to compute your liability, how have you disclosed your liability, where is your output supply, where is your input supply, इन सब चीजों के लिए क्या लगेगा आपको? I think it will be various books of accounts, आपके records जिनसे आपने actually return बनाई है, all of that is the basic data that you will need for self assessment, and you should always have that data in place. Interestingly, very recently CBIC ने एक amendment लाया था जिसमें उन्होंने बोला था कि अब से GSTR 1 में जो output supply आप लोग declare करेंगे, that will also be a self-assessed tax. So earlier, just to give you a background, earlier only the liability that you were declaring in GSTR 3B was a self-assessed tax, but now the government has gone one step ahead and they have told that liability which you declare in GSTR 1 will also be a self-assessed tax. So, okay, इसका importance क्या है? I mean, you can ask me what is the impact? मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? 1 करो, 3B करो, how does it matter? Well, it matters because अब तक 1 versus 3B का जो एक reconciliation था, वो department उस पे ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं दे रहा था. But after this, 1 versus 3B के reconciliation पे there will be a special focus. If there is a difference in your output supply as per 1 and as per 3B, you could the department could come and directly start the recovery proceedings under 73 and 74. So it's a serious matter. You cannot take it lightly. So जब ये amendment आया था, I think there was a lot of chaos. Industry was not very happy with this amendment because they said कि हर बार तो 1 versus 3 में हमारा match नहीं होगा. तो आप ऐसे कैसे कर सकते हो कि directly recovery proceedings start कर सकते हो? So the department came up with the clarifications, thankfully this time on time. And they said that they issued a guideline saying that जो proper officer रहेगा वो आपको communicate करेगा that आपके 1 versus 3B में differences हैं, आप बताइए क्यों हैं. If you are able to explain such differences very well, we shall drop that proceeding there and then. If you are not able to, then obviously recovery proceedings will be initiated. So I think we will all have to be very careful of our reconciliations between 1 and 3B. जो भी आप 1 में दिखा रहे हैं और जो भी 3B में दिखा रहे हैं, I think that has to marry with each other. If there are any differences, we should have some backup reasoning for it. Otherwise, we could land up in trouble. GST is a self-assessed regime. However, there is no possibility of revision of returns, unlike VAT or unlike service tax, where you could go back and revise your earlier returns. This plays a very important role because आप एक बार रिटर्न फाइल कर देते हैं एंड दैट इज इट, उसके बाद आप जाके उस रिटर्न को चेंज नहीं कर सकते हैं. सो द ओनली ऑप्शन दैट द लॉ गिव्स यू इज रेक्टिफिकेशन टू बी डन इन सब्सिक्वेंट रिटर्न्स. तो जिस दिन आपको पता चली है दैट आपसे गलती हो गई, बिकॉज फाइनली वी आर ह्यूमंस एंड ह्यूमंस आर बाउंड टू अर्र. सो जिस दिन आपको पता चला है कि आपसे गलती हो गई है, प्लीज do those rectifications in your returns. One important point from the perspective of self-assessment is that on a very, I mean, GST, we all know that every, now and then there are so many notifications, circulars, instructions, public notices and whatnot that come in. और आज ये चेंज हो गया, आज 2B की जगह 2A की जगह 2B आ गया, कल इस रिटर्न की जगह वो रिटर्न फाइल करिए, उसकी जगह वो हो गया. So there are so many amendments going on and it is very difficult to keep a track of these amendments. Therefore, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने एक टैक्स पोजीशन ले ली और अब आप शांति से बैठ गए, अच्छा चलो हमारा तो सब सही चल रहा है. No, that is not how GST is going to work. You will have to reevaluate your tax positions every now and then. On a periodical basis आप चेक करिए कि आपने जो टैक्स पोजीशंस पिछले महीने पिछले साल ली थी, क्या वो अभी भी वैलिड है, उसके ऊपर कोई अमेंडमेंट आया है, कोई नोटिफिकेशन आया है, कोई सर्कुलर आया है, कोई केस लॉ आया है, कोई AAR आया है. There are so many things to check. So please be updated, keep reevaluating and revalidating your tax positions. Again, GST is it's a regime of reconciliations. 1 versus 3B, 2A versus 2B, purchase register versus 2A, books of accounts versus GST return, e-invoicing versus GSTR1, GSTR1 versus e-way bills. I mean, आधी जिंदगी CA बनने में निकल गई और आधी बाकी की ये reconciliation करने में निकलने वाली है. So yeah, please keep doing these reconciliations. I mean, there's nothing that we can do apart from actually doing them and keeping them ready. Yeah, so reconciliation is one bit. The last point on self-assessment is that whenever there is a late payment of tax, you have to pay late fees. So suppose करिए आपने मार्च का अभी का जो रिटर्न है, आपने अगर 20th मार्च को पे नहीं किया, फरवरी का रिटर्न जो आप 20th मार्च को टैक्स नहीं पे कर पाए, if you're paying it on 25th March, please ensure that you are paying late fees and interest as applicable. And interest has to be paid on net liability. This has been clarified in this, and a notification has also come in now, not on the gross liability. So you need to pay interest and late fees. One important part from the perspective of planning for your past assessments would be that during the pandemic, जब COVID चल रहा था, तो government ने बहुत deadlines आगे की थी, shift कर दी थी. So have a compliance calendar in place, because what will happen is once an audit comes in or once an assessment comes in, आपने 20th की जगह 23rd को पे किया होगा और government ने actually वो deadline 25th की रखी होगी. The officer आपको आके बोलेगा नहीं आपने 3 दिन late पे किया है. You will at that point not remember कि तब due date ही shift हो गई थी. So it's always better to have that deadline or that compliance tracker and a calendar in place with reasons कि हमने क्यों 3 दिन late file किया और interest क्यों नहीं पे किया. So that is a bit on self-assessment. Moving on, the next section that we are going to discuss is provisional assessment. Now, provisional assessment is not something new. We used to have this in custom, or we rather also have this in customs, and it's a pretty old concept that ways. But what is provisional assessment? Provisional assessment is when you yourself cannot really decide that मुझे क्या tax pay करना है. क्यों? क्योंकि आपको you are not sure what is the value of goods or services that you're supplying and what is the rate of applicable tax. सिर्फ ये 2 scenarios जब भी invoke होंगे तो आपको provisional assessment में जाने की permission है by the department. What is the procedure? Basically, a taxpayer will file an application. He will request the proper officer that I want to go for provisional assessment because I am not able to assess my liability. The proper officer shall have a period of 90 days. तो वो 90 days में आपको बता देंगे कि ठीक है आपका request accept हो गया है, आप file कर दीजिए अपना return provisionally, या फिर वो आपसे further clarifications मांग सकते हैं. However, after that further clarifications also, the proper officer interestingly does not have an option to reject your application. Okay, so if you apply for provisional assessment, it is your right to get that provisional assessment order in place. Okay, he does not have the option to reject your application. This is a very important point. Now, once you get a permission that okay, you pay taxes on provisional assessment, फिर क्या होगा? Then you will have to execute a bond. क्योंकि bond इसलिए execute करना है कि कल को अगर आपका tax liability बहुत ज़्यादा आ जाए तो आप उठ के भाग ना जाएं. So that is why they execute a bond. whereby they take a surety from you that whatever the final assessed tax will be, the difference will be taken care of and the government's revenue is in safe hands. So that is the reason for executing a bond. Now, पहले 90 days में आपने उनसे permission ले ली, उन्होंने permission दे दी, provisional assessment initiate हो गया. Now, after those 90 days period, within 6 months, जो officer है उनको अपना provisional assessment complete करना पड़ता है. They will have to tell you that this is your finally assessed tax. So the time limit for that is 6 months. This can obviously अभी government की deadline है तो तारीख पे तारीख तो चलती रहती है. So this can be further extended by joint commissioner or additional commissioner by another 6 months. And by commissioner for another 4 years. So in totality, मतलब 4-5 साल तक आपका provisional assessment चल सकता है. So you can be rest assured. ये आप, I mean, there could be some delay here. Another important point is request of provisional assessment should always come from taxpayer. I mean, a tax authority cannot suo motu initiate provisional assessment. So it should always be your own request that should go to the officer. The officer cannot come back to you and say कि चलो तुम provisional assessment करवा लो. No, that is not permissible under law. Procedural aspect of provisional assessment has been laid down in Rule 98. Obviously, so another important point is only registered persons can go for provisional assessment. Unregistered persons cannot apply for provisional assessment. Now, some interesting facts. आपका फाइनली असेस टैक्स तो 6 महीने निकल गए, आपका प्रोविजनल असेसमेंट कंप्लीट हो गया. नाउ आपका जो फाइनली असेस टैक्स है इट इज ग्रेटर देन योर प्रोविजनली असेस टैक्स. मतलब आपने 6 महीने पहले 10 रुपए भरे, फाइनली असेस टैक्स है आपका 100 रुपीज. वेरी गुड. तो अभी रिमेनिंग 90 रुपीज आपको भरना पड़ेगा ऑब्वियसली. उसके साथ आपको इंटरेस्ट भी भरना पड़ेगा. कितना? 18%. और कब से कब तक? फ्रॉम ओरिजिनल ड्यू डेट टिल द डेट ऑफ एक्चुअल पेमेंट यू हैव टू पे इंटरेस्ट एट 18%. मतलब टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई जब हुआ था, जब से टैक्स आपका एक्चुअली एप्लीकेबल हुआ था, तब से आज तक you will have to pay tax at 18%. So this is when your finally assessed tax is greater than your provisionally assessed tax. Now the second scenario उल्टा भी हो सकता है कि हमने जो provisionally assessed tax था वो ज्यादा पे कर दिया, final assessed तो कम है. तब क्या होगा? तो ऐसा होगा तब पहले तो ये चेक किया जाएगा कि आपने ये टैक्स इंसिडेंट्स अपने कस्टमर्स को पास ऑन तो नहीं कर दिए, राइट? सो प्रिंसिपल ऑफ अनजस्ट एनरिचमेंट वुड बी चेक्ड. गवर्नमेंट आपको इंटरेस्ट भरेगी क्योंकि उनके पास आपके 6 महीने से ज्यादा तक आपके पैसे पड़े हैं, पर वो इंटरेस्ट कितना भरेंगे? 6%. और कब से कब तक भरेंगे? फ्रॉम 61st डे ऑफ द रिसीट ऑफ एप्लीकेशन ऑफ रिफंड टिल एक्चुअल पेमेंट इज डिस्बर्स्ड. सो प्लीज बेयर इन माइंड दैट to claim this refund of the tax that you've paid extra, you will have to file an application of refund. Now you can see the difference. नीचे 6% है, ऊपर 18%. So basically 3 गुना लगान आपसे मांगा जाएगा अगर आपका finally assessed tax is greater than provisionally assessed tax. लेकिन जब वो उनकी पे करने की बारी आएगी तो वो 6% ही पे करेंगे. So yeah, that's an interesting point. Provisional assessment order जो है that is appealable. If you're not happy with the way your provisional assessment has been done, you can appeal against it before the appellate authority, and you can go up to Supreme Court for that matter also. Now for matters तो हमने जैसे देखा वैल्यू और रेट में अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो आप provisional assessment में जा सकते हैं. However, if you have some concerns regarding some other topics, let's say classification or applicability of an exemption notification, or maybe I don't know, similar matters, then you can go to AAR. So I think we all know that AAR is a very active authority under GST and they will answer your queries there. However, one important point that you should note is that AAR, the orders of AAR is only appealable till AAAR. That's all. Moving on, the next section that we are going to cover today is section 61, which is scrutiny of returns. This section is the most common section that is used by authorities for conducting assessments under GST. Now, scrutiny of returns, as the name suggests, what will the officer do? The officer will basically scrutinize your returns and returns related particulars for correctness of return. Now I have highlighted and underlined these two terms: returns related particulars and correctness of return. तो पहली बात तो सिर्फ return related particulars वो देख सकते हैं. Okay, so they cannot ask for your financials, they cannot ask for your income tax return, they cannot ask for your 3CD, 3CB, nothing. Only your GST returns, and whatever discrepancy that they find, it has to be there in the GST returns. That is the limited scope of section 61. Number one. Number two, they will check for correctness of return. So the law uses the term correctness. But what is correctness? it could be your accuracy, arithmetical accuracy, it could be your legal tax positions, it could be your disclosure. We don't know. Law में कहीं नहीं लिखा गया है कि what is correctness of return. It is a subjective term, can be widely interpreted by different people at different points in time. So there is some gray area here. Yeah, so the officer will scrutinize your return. They will come back to you and they will tell you that यहाँ पे आपके discrepancy निकली है. So now you need to furnish a clarification on this. So once they come to you, you have 30 days to respond. So you can go back and tell them that, okay, this is the clarification that I have. Either they will get satisfied, chapter closed. They will not get satisfied, they will come back to you. They will say, no, we need further explanation. Again, you go back. Either they will get satisfied, chapter closed. If they do not get satisfied, then what? Then the officers cannot issue a demand notice under 61. It is only for scrutiny purpose. So अगर कोई conclusion नहीं मिला, अगर वो आपके explanation से satisfy नहीं हुए, then what will happen? Audit under 65 or 66 can be initiated. They can also go to section 67. If they feel that there is something serious happening, they could go to section 67. 67 is inspection, search, and seizures. So friends, what I'm trying to tell you is that section 61 is a very important section. Whenever you get a notice under section 61, please take it very seriously, because अगर आपका कोई conclusion यहाँ नहीं reach हुआ, this will lead to an audit or an inspection. In either case, it will be a longer exercise, will take a lot of time and a lot of costs will get incurred. I have, on a sample basis, I have just attached a sample notice जैसे मिलता है 61 में. So यहाँ आप देखेंगे section 61 में यहाँ बोला गया डिपार्टमेंट ने notice for intimating discrepancy in the return after scrutiny. So this is to inform you that during scrutiny of returns, the following discrepancy have been noticed. ITC availed in 3B is more than 2A. Very regularly, this issue is very regularly raised. So इस टाइप का notice आ जाता है और आपको इस notice का जवाब देना पड़ता है within 30 days. Moving on, the next section that we will cover is section 62, which is assessment of non-filers of return. So number one, हमने पहले देखा 61 में जिन्होंने रिटर्न फाइल की, रिटर्न में गलती है, उनको नोटिस इशू होता है. This is the second section, which is आपने रिटर्न ही नहीं फाइल की, रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की तो असेसमेंट कैसे होगा? Any ideas? Can anybody answer in the chat box? कैसे होगा अगर रिटर्न ही नहीं फाइल हुई है? So how will the assessment take place? Please use your chat bots to answer, friends. Okay, I think maybe I'm not receiving the messages. Last 3 years basis, okay. So Mr. Ravi Gupta has to say last 3 years, but so 3 years में return ही नहीं file किया आपने. Yes, very nice. I have received the correct answer from Mr. Harshal. It is on best judgment assessment. So best judgment again is a very old concept, nothing new. डिपार्टमेंट क्या करेंगे? डिपार्टमेंट आपको बोलेगा कि अभी आपने रिटर्न तो नहीं फाइल की, तो हम आपकी टैक्स लायबिलिटी असेस कर देते हैं बेस्ड ऑन रेलेवेंट इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल. व्हाट इज रेलेवेंट इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल? अगेन वी डोंट नो. आई एम नॉट अवेयर व्हाट इज रेलेवेंट इंफॉर्मेशन. इट कुड बी your financials, it could be your IT returns, it could be your TDS returns, it could be your vendor ledger confirmation, your customer ledger confirmation, it could be anything. But there is a procedure which is given under section 62. I'll just take you through that procedure. सबसे पहले जब आप रिटर्न नहीं फर्निश करते हैं अंडर सेक्शन 39 और 45. 39 is your GSTR 3B summary return. आपने 3B नहीं फाइल की, और 45 is basically your final return. फाइनल रिटर्न मतलब जब आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन सरेंडर हो गया उसके बाद में जो रिटर्न फाइल होती है, दैट इज 45. अगर आपने ये दोनों रिटर्न्स नहीं फाइल की तो क्या होता है? आपको सबसे पहले एक नोटिस आता है अंडर सेक्शन 46. ये सेक्शन आपको बोलता है कि आप प्लीज रिटर्न फाइल कर दीजिए 39 और 45 में. उसके बाद भी आपने रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की, तो कुछ लोग होते हैं ढीठ होते हैं, दे डोंट लिसन. सो उसके बाद भी आपने रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की तो क्या होता है? तो आपको इमीडिएटली 62 के अंदर नोटिस आ जाता है. नोटिस नहीं आता है, असेसमेंट ऑर्डर आ जाता है डायरेक्टली कि आपका असेसमेंट हो चुका है, इतना टैक्स है, प्लीज पे कर दीजिए. ये नोटिस आने के बाद भी द गवर्नमेंट इज गिविंग यू मोर चांसेस देन वी एक्चुअली डिजर्व. ये नोटिस आने के बाद भी विद इन 30 डेज अगर आपने रिटर्न फाइल कर दी है तो ये असेसमेंट ऑर्डर शैल बी डीम्ड टू बी विड्रॉन, वेकेट हो जाएगा असेसमेंट ऑर्डर अपने आप, डोंट नो एप्लीकेशन रिक्वायर्ड. सो द गवर्नमेंट इज बेसिकली गिविंग यू 3 chances टू फाइल योर रिटर्न. सबसे पहले आपको 46 में नोटिस आएगा, फिर 62 में आएगा, और फिर उसके बाद आपको बोला जाएगा अब भी फाइल कर दो, तो अभी भी हम इसको वेकेट कर देते हैं. सो स्टिल देयर आर पीपल हु डोंट फाइल. So then in that case, best judgment assessment hota hai on the relevant information that is available. What is the timeline to issue assessment order? So basically, the proper officer has to issue this order within 5 years from the due date of filing annual return, that is 31st December of the following end of financial year. For example, अगर आपने 21-22 की कोई भी रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की है, तो पहली बार 21-22 की ड्यू डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग एनुअल रिटर्न विल बी 31st December 22. इस डेट से लेके 5 साल तक आपको कभी भी ये 62 का नोटिस आ सकता है. So it's a pretty wide period, and people who do not file returns can be rest assured you will get covered somewhere or here or there, कहीं ना कहीं तो आप कवर हो जाएंगे और आपको नोटिस आ सकता है. Interest and late fee will continue even if you file your return, within 30 days. ये जो 30 days वाला पीरियड है, इसमें अगर आप फाइल कर भी रहे हैं रिटर्न, because this is a delayed return, interest and late fees will continue here. Moving on, I'll just take you again through this process. So notice issue हुआ 46 में कि भैया आपने 39 and 45 में you have not filed your returns. If you file your return within 15 days, very good, matter closed. If you do not file, then what happens? Assessment order will be issued under section 62. If you file your returns, notice shall be withdrawn. If you don't file your return, then what happens? Serious implications. Recovery under section 79 will be initiated. So when you get these notices under 46, 62, please go ahead and file your returns. Very interesting point is, अगर आपने 46 के बाद, section 46 के बाद अगर आपने नोटिस रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की ना, तो वो बिना किसी नोटिस के आपको ऑर्डर इशू कर सकते हैं. So they will not give any intimation. Without any further communication, they will just issue order under 62. Moving on, okay, so 61 was scrutiny of returns. 62 was best judgment assessment for non-filer of returns. 63 is assessment of unregistered persons. Abhi, again, my question to you is, how will you assess unregistered person? How will you do it? Can anybody answer that question? I'm looking at the chat box. Anybody would like to answer? जिसका रजिस्ट्रेशन ही नहीं है, उसका कैसे असेसमेंट होगा? I think nobody is answering. Come on, friends. Similar to the non-filers. Yes, I think Mr. Harshal, you are bang on again. Similar to the non-filers ही होगा. Best judgment में ही, ये भी best judgment में ही cover होता है. It is read with rule 100. So where a taxable person fails to obtain registration, like you are a taxable person, you were supposed to pay taxes, you were supposed to file returns, you were supposed to obtain registration. आपने कुछ भी नहीं किया, आपने तो registration ही नहीं लिया, तो क्या होगा? You will be subjected to best judgment assessment under section 63. पहला point ये. दूसरा point, registration is cancelled. Your registration gets cancelled under section 29(2). But still you are liable to pay taxes. Then you will be covered under section 63. ये 29(2) है, ये बहुत interesting section है. I will just quickly take you through it. Any person who contravenes the provisions of acts or rules. If you, so it basically says कि आपने कोई भी गलती कर दी law के हिसाब से, तो आपका registration cancel हो सकता है. Very broad. Any composition person who does not furnish GSTR4 beyond 3 months from the due date. Any other person who does not furnish any return for such continuous periods. ये जो दो points हैं, second और third, ये budget 22 में amend हुए हैं and they are yet to be notified. Person sought voluntary registration. किसी ने voluntary registration लिया but 6 महीने तक, I mean, they did not start their business. And registration obtained by fraud or willful misstatements. तो ये सब scenario में जब registration cancel हो जाता है, इन लोगों का assessment होता है 63 में. कैसे होता है? Department relies on third-party sources. And what are third-party sources? Income tax से ले लिया, ROC से ले लिया, MCA से ले लिया, vendors से ले लिया, customers से ले लिया, bank से ले लिया. With all these third-party sources, a best judgment assessment is done. Time period is given to the taxpayers of 15 days. 15 days का आपको time period मिलता है. You can furnish your reply. आपको opportunity of being heard भी मिलती है. So principles of natural justice is also followed in this section. और अगर आप reply file कर देते हैं, if he is satisfied, proceedings can be dropped. Otherwise, it shall continue. इसमें भी वही टाइम लिमिट है 5 years from the due date of filing annual return. Same example, 31st December 22 से लेके 5 साल 27 तक आपको नोटिस आ सकता है for any non-compliance within 21-22. इसमें CBIC ने एक SOP भी इशू किया था for best judgment provisions. Why was this SOP issued? I'll tell you, because officers were left and right issuing notices under best judgment, and they were literally without any basis. They were computing tax liabilities and they were issuing notices कि चलो अब इतना tax pay कर दो. There was absolutely no basis, no reasonable means. कहीं से भी कुछ भी story उनकी connect नहीं हो रही थी, और इसलिए CBIC ने 2019 में एक SOP issue किया that you need to follow these steps before you issue an order under best judgment assessment provisions. So this is first section 63. Moving on. Section 64. So अभी तक हम लोग 50-50 मैच खेल रहे थे, टेस्ट मैच खेल रहे थे. This is the 2020, the game of today. Summary assessments or fast track assessments. Fast track assessments basically gives exceptional power to PO. Now, what is the condition जब 64 invoke हो सकता है? The condition is that the proper officer should be convinced and he should have evidence that there is a revenue leakage happening. And if I do not do a fast track assessment of this person, he will go absconding. He's a defaulting taxpayer. He's a fraudster. He will go absconding if it is not done quickly and if it is not concluded very in a fast track manner. So what will happen is PO will go to AC and GC. उनको बोलेगा that we need to invoke section 64 against this person. The AC and GC may evaluate the case and they may give the permission, they may not give the permission. So if they give the permission, a taxable person will receive a notice under section 64 and he will have 30 days to apply for withdrawal. He can tell that, no, I am not a fraudster, I am a bona fide taxpayer, please do not invoke section 64 against me. If the AC and GC, if they are satisfied, they may either suo motu also withdraw this assessment order, or by the request of taxable person also it can be done. अगर ये withdraw हो जाता है, तो 73-74 में recovery proceedings initiate होती हैं. The aim of this section is to safeguard the interest of revenue, and there is no time limit. So that is an interesting point. जैसे हमने देखा पिछले दो section में it was 5 years, but here there is no time limit for passing the order. It's an open ground. आप कभी भी कितने भी साल बाद कर सकते हो. It appears like that at least from the law. I'm not sure about whether this was the intent of the law really. So इसमें there is no mention of the fact that opportunity of being heard will be given. So I'm just wondering why principles of natural justice would not apply in this case. That is one question that I also have. Taxpayer is permitted to challenge the assessment before AC and JC, and one important fact here is that the proper officer needs to have an evidence. If he doesn't have the evidence, no, this case cannot stand in the court of law. You need to have a proper evidence to initiate assessment under section 64. So these are some common points with regards to assessments. Apart from 59, which was self-assessment, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, what we just read, the orders are passed by adjudicating authorities. You can appeal against any of these orders to the appellate authority. Okay. So, for example, अगर deputy commissioner ने किया है तो आप additional commissioner को appeal कर सकते हैं. Just follow the hierarchy. You can definitely appeal. All these orders are appealable. So there's nothing to be worried about if you think that you are right and the order has been passed against you. Next point is, the government learned a lot from the erstwhile regime. और इस बार उन्होंने क्या किया है? By virtue of section 160, they have clearly laid down in the law that if there is any mistake or defect or omission in the assessment notice or assessment order, छोटा मोटा अगर कुछ हमसे गलती हो गया, so but there is the intent and the purpose of law in substance and in effect is getting satisfied, then that assessment proceedings cannot be held to be invalid. So previously in the erstwhile regime, what used to happen, कभी-कभी यहाँ जाके गवर्नमेंट मात खा जाती थी क्योंकि कोर्ट में बोलते थे नहीं नहीं इसमें ये गलत है, इसमें ये गलत है, तो ये इसको छोड़ दो. प्रोसीजरल इश्यूज की वजह से भी असेसमेंट ऑर्डर invalid the court used to hold. But now they have inculcated this in the law, and hence they have saved themselves from a lot of litigations henceforth. So this was about assessments. Now I'd like to take a small quick assessment of our folks and friends. I have some questions and I would like you to answer in the chat box. Please help me make this session more interactive. So I have a question. Is form DRC-01 the only form which is issued for communicating the demand? Is there any other form? Can I see the chat bot from your box? Do we have any answers here? Amitji, can you help me, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's one answer from Ravi Gupta, AST 10.
Okay. Yes, sir. ASMT 10 is definitely the assessment order, but recovery, I'm just saying that demand communicate करने के लिए is DRC-01 the only form, or is there any other form? आपका assessment हो गया, उसके बाद आपको demand communicate करी जा रही है. So is DRC-01 the only form? Any more answers, Amit ji?
No.
Okay, so maybe I'll give an answer to that. No, DRC-01 is not the only form. There is one more form that needs to be issued, and it is, the pre-issuance of form DRC-01A is also essential for any assessment proceedings to be legitimate. This was held in the case of VRS Traders versus Assistant Commissioner by Madras High Court. Now, this is a very interesting case law, and I'll just take 1 minute to discuss this. What was the case was the facts were that the assessee was a sole proprietorship concern of, and they were into selling of scrap, steel scrap. Unko DRC-01A issue हुआ. DRC-01A, friends, is an intimation of demand. So department क्या करता है? पहले आपको intimate कर देता है that this is your demand in 01A, and you can reply to that. You can either accept or reject, and then the final demand comes in 01. तो दो forms है 1A और 1. So इस केस में क्या हुआ? 1A उनको issue हो गया, alleging that आपने wrong ITC लिया है. Your suppliers, we cannot find them. They have not filed returns. Very classic case सबके साथ होता है. So the assessee replied, they said, we are not accepting this demand. Now, next, what the department did was they directly issued the assessment order. They skipped issuing DRC-01, which is actually the order which finalizes the demand. So the assessee went to the High Court, filed a petition, and the Madras High Court has decided this in the favor of the assessee. So they said that DRC-01A and DRC-01 both needs to be issued by the department. Otherwise, the assessment proceedings will be quashed. So I think it's a very important point for us chartered accountants, because we do not sometimes realize that these are very, very small nuances. Just के basis पे we can get some relief for our clients. So going forward, if you get a 1A form or 1 either of, then please ensure that you get both forms. Because one more important benefit of this is जब 1A में आपको demand का intimation आ जाता है, आप तुरंत pay कर सकते हो और you can save on the client's penalty also, right? Can a court extend the timeline of 30 days given under section 62 to file returns? So remember 62, best judgment assessment for non-filer of returns. उसके अंदर जो 30 days है, क्या court, high court या supreme court आपको इसमें relief दे सकता है? Anybody would like to answer this question? Amiji, do we have any answers?
No, ma'am, still not.
Yeah, not maybe take more time.
Yeah, there's one answer, Harshal, and he's saying no.
Correct. Mr. Harshal, you are again right. Thank you for your answer, and thank you for being so interactive. No, the time limit given under the law has to be strictly construed. Since it's a taxing statute, no special circumstances exist warranting interference of court. So what the court means is the 30 days has been written in the law. आप को एक्सेप्शन देने का हमारे पास कोई राइट ही नहीं है, राइट? And this was held in the case of bridge hygiene services by Kerala High Court. Last question on assessments. SCN is merely, now this is a very simple one. I think I would expect more answers from you friends. So SCN is merely uploaded on portal. Is it properly served? आपको फिजिकल कॉपी नहीं मिली है SCN की, पर आपके GSTN पोर्टल पे दिख रही है. क्या ये प्रॉपर्ली सर्व्ड है?
One answer is there from Harshal again. Yes, from VKP, no. Two answers are yes and no, both.
Yes and no. Okay. Okay. Payal Mota says yes. Is it properly served? Yes. Okay. So yes, Payal and Harshal, you are absolutely right. It is properly served because why? I'll tell you. Issuing order through web portal is one of the methods of service statutorily prescribed in 169(1)(c). So जब GST law draft हुआ था और ये पूरा GSTN portal का architecture बन रहा था, government ने तभी decide कर लिया था that we need to do away with this physical serving of notices. You know, it is so cumbersome for the assessee, for the government both, and hence they decided that we are going to upload these notices on the portal, and it will be an effective, delivery of notice to the assessees. It was also held in the case of PB Enterprises. And the Kerala High Court held this. अगर ये सेम चीज सर्विस टैक्स में होती तो क्या आपका आंसर सेम रहता? सर्विस टैक्स में ऑफिसर ने बनाया ऑर्डर और ड्रॉअर में डाल दिया. No, that would not have been properly served because at that point in time there was no common web portal with us, right? So hand delivery करना essential होता था तब. Okay, so this was the assessments that I wanted to discuss with you. The second topic that we are going to discuss today is audits under GST. Audits, I think it is in our DNA as chartered accountants. We've completed our CA, we've been taught audits, and unfortunately, the Section 35 audit of GST has been taken away, rosy roti. So yeah, that is something unfortunate, but there are still two types of audits which still persist under the GST regime. It is done by the departments only. One is audit by tax authorities, and the other is special audit, 65 and 66 sections. What does audit mean? I think this I need not explain to any chartered accountant on the forum. So I'll just quickly take you through the definition. Examination of records, returns, and other documents maintained or furnished by a registered person. Focus on registered person. Verify correctness of turnover, taxes paid, refunds claimed, ITC availed to assess his compliance with the provisions of the Act. तो ये है audits under GST. पहला audit का scenario है audit by tax authorities और दूसरा है special audits. Criteria क्या है selection का? Criteria ये है. So in 2019, GST audit manual was issued. I'm pretty sure that all of us have somewhere heard or read that document. वहाँ पे 39 पैरामीटर्स डिफाइन किए थे उन्होंने. These were the risk parameters, जिसके बेसिस पे उन्होंने बोला कि हम रिस्क एनालिसिस करेंगे और हम देखेंगे कि हमें किसका ऑडिट करना है और किसका नहीं करना है. See, India has a large set of taxpayer band. I mean, one of the largest democracies in the world, so naturally we have a large taxpayer base. सबका ऑडिट करने बैठेंगे तो हमारा डिपार्टमेंट थक जाएगा, correct? So what they have done is they have a scientific manner. They choose their assessees wisely. जहाँ पे रिस्क ज्यादा है, जहाँ पे रिकवरी के चांसेस ज्यादा है, naturally for the sake of government revenue, and they came out with these 39 parameters. Let's quickly discuss this. So a person can be selected for audit based on the size of refund. You are claiming very high refunds, आपका नंबर लग सकता है. Turnover, net profit, it is too high for your sector. So all these are very subjective terms, but industry के हिसाब से, sector के हिसाब से, it is too high या too low for that matter. तो भी आपका नंबर लग सकता है. You are claiming too many exemptions. From last year, if we see your turnover or your net profit, there is a huge variation. बहुत ऊपर नीचे है, आपका चार्ट बहुत ऊपर नीचे हो रहा है. क्यों हो रहा है? Financial ratio analysis, NP ratio, GP ratio, not matching with last year's. In fact, there are big differences. Why? That could be one of the reasons why you can be chosen for audit. You have made supplies. GSTR 1 में supply दिख रहा है, e-way bill issue नहीं हुआ है. You are not filing periodical returns, but e-way bills are being issued. Vice versa cases. Legal relationship with other entities, so related party transactions. Multiple branches. You are registered in 30 states. there is a very good likelihood of you being chosen for GST audits. Legacy issues, so companies which are old as in even 10-15 years old, आपका पिछले GST era में 4-5 साल से कोई audit ही नहीं हुआ कभी, good chance that you could be selected this time. Audit हुआ और बहुत high risk आपको category दी गई थी तब, again a good chance. You have been a subject of evasion or a subject of investigation, search, seizure in the previous regime, good chances आपके वापस number आने के. Anything else, like if you've requested for waivers or you have gone bankrupt or specific information, कुछ intelligence based information आ गई कहीं से, किसी ने prank call कर दिया, इस आदमी के पास कुछ issue है, आपका number लग सकता है. So these are the criteria for selection of audits. Procedure for audit. So सबसे पहले क्या होता है, एक बार उन्होंने ये डिसाइड कर लिया कि हाँ ABC कंपनी है, रिस्क पैरामीटर्स में बैठ रही है, इसका हमें ऑडिट करना है. Then what happens? Then the officer or the department will issue a notice in ADT 01. ADT 01 is the notice, name of the notice. इसमें notice issue किया जाएगा, इसमें questionnaire भी दिया जाएगा and 15 days का time दिया जाएगा. Audit can only be permitted by a commissioner. So ADT 01 will always have the permission or the blessing of a commissioner. Commissioner के नीचे कोई audit को authorize नहीं कर सकता है. Next, assessee 15 दिन का टाइम दिया जाता है, आपको एक नोटिस आता है, okay, you will be the subject of our next audit and this is a questionnaire, please fill this and please give us this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 information. So you will give all those 5 information, you will send it to the officers. Then what happens? Desk audit review. What is desk audit review? The officer will sit at his own premises in the office on his desk and do your audit review. Desk audit review, friends, is a very, very important exercise for officers. Why? Because this is an exercise by way of which they gather their information. They make a plan, audit strategy. What they do is they will have all your, backup documents in place. They will identify where the variations are. Okay, GSTR 1 is showing this. However, your financial statement shows a revenue of much higher than GSTR 1. There is a problem. So they will identify all these variations and they will come with a very focused approach. The next step will be a very focused approach. They will identify some 5 or 6 areas and they will focus there. They will visit your business premises, on-site verification karenge. They could do a walkthrough of your business. They may ask for any further information or clarifications which you may have to provide. And after all the process is done, so this exercise could happen to and fro. They could ask for information 2-3 बार हो सकता है मांग ले, आप 2-3 बार provide करेंगे. फिर उसके बाद एक draft audit report share की जाती है. Draft audit report again is a very important step for the purpose of the assessee. Why? Because this is your chance to get the findings dropped. You have 2 options. Either you accept, if you feel that you have committed some error, you can actually आप उसको accept कर लीजिए, उस पे tax भर दीजिए, interest भर दीजिए और छुड़वा दीजिए उसको. I mean, just have the findings drop. Or second option, if you are not convinced with that, you can definitely go ahead. ADT 02 में final audit report में वो issue आएगा highlight होके और उस पे आप आगे litigation कर सकते हैं. Why I say that draft audit report is important? Because it has to be very strategically drafted. I mean, you have to reply very strategically. You cannot really expose all your defenses here in the draft audit report. Otherwise, क्या होगा? Department जब litigation में जाएंगे आप आगे, तो department को already पता होगा कि इनका defense क्या है. तो उसके against they will prepare their own defense. So they will have an edge over us. So draft audit report is a very important step here. Final audit report in AD 202 comes with demand and recovery. You pay and the matter is closed, or you don't pay and you go into litigation. Next is, so this was how the audit is conducted and how assessees are selected. Now let's see section 65 and 66, what they have to say. So section 65 is audit by tax authorities. Now commissioner, as I said, can only authorize taxpayers, any registered person's audit. It can be conducted at the place of business or their own office. 15 days prior notice is required to be given. Before that, I mean, with a shorter notice, they cannot come to you and ask for information. Yes, there is a time period for completion of audit. It is 3 months from the date of commencement of audit. Now, what is commencement of audit? Thankfully, this has been defined. So commencement of audit is date on which the records and other documents are made available to the officers or the actual institution of audit at the place of the assessee, whichever is earlier. तो या तो आपने जिस दिन सारे डॉक्यूमेंट दे दिए उस दिन से कमेंस हो जाएगी ऑडिट, या फिर जिस दिन वो आपके ऑफिस में आके आप अपना ऑडिट स्टार्ट करते हैं उस दिन से कमेंस हो जाएगी. तो 3 months is a date. Now as I said, डिपार्टमेंट की डेट है तो तारीख पे तारीख, एक्सटेंशन मिल सकता है बट नॉट एक्सीडिंग 6 months. ओके, सो इन टोटल आपको 9 months में आपको आपकी ड्राफ्ट ऑडिट रिपोर्ट मिल जानी चाहिए. रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन जैसे ही कंक्लूड हो जाता है उसको 30 days के अंदर उसका फाइंडिंग्स और राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशंस के बारे में डिपार्टमेंट इन्फॉर्म करता है. Once all of this is done, 73-74 is used to initiate recovery. Again, section 65 में कोई demand नहीं कर सकते. You have to go to 73 and 74 to raise any kind of demand on any taxpayers. Audit can only be conducted of registered person. I think we've discussed it at their place of business. And unregistered persons के लिए there is only one option, which is best judgment assessment, which we discussed above. Now, departmental audits can be conducted for 1 financial year, for parts of financial year, or for multiple financial year. मतलब 3 महीने के लिए भी हो सकता है, 1 साल 3 महीने के लिए भी हो सकता है, और 1 साल के लिए भी हो सकता है, और 2 साल के लिए भी हो सकता है. Okay, audit can be conducted within 3 years from the due date of furnishing annual return. Okay, in case the department alleges fraud on you, they can go back up to 5 years. So there are two time limits here, 3 years and 5 years, depending on whether they are alleging fraud or willful statement or not. Now there is a duration which is recommended. So please focus, it is recommended, it is not mandatory. Duration recommended as per audit manual, जहाँ पे audit period is 1 year. So for large taxpayers, you can complete it in 6 to 8 working days. Medium taxpayers के case में officers can complete in 4 to 6, and small के case में 2 to 4. However, as I said, this is a recommended timeline. I don't think anybody follows this really. On our right, we can see that there is a notice. So this is a sample notice जो audit में आता है. If you read it, notice for conducting audit under section 65, तो इसमें बोला गया है कि जुलाई से, ये देखिए, जुलाई 17 से मार्च 18 मतलब 9 months का ऑडिट है, एंड 18-19 मतलब 1 year 9 months का ऑडिट इन्होंने किया है स्टार्ट. एंड they have asked to furnish information and records such as trial balance, balance sheet, income tax return, annual financial statements, income tax audit report, cost audit report, summary of 1 and 3B, 9C, and render assistance for timely completion. उनको डेट दे दिए कि इस दिन से पहले आप दे सकते हैं. This is how a sample audit notice looks like. I also have, I think, one more notice. Yeah, here. So I'm sorry, but this is a little illegible, but I have the hard copy of this notice, so I can read it for you. इसमें क्या किया है, उन्होंने बोला है कि आप सेम चीज, आप प्लीज फर्निश इन्फॉर्मेशन ऑन अ टाइमली कंप्लीशन, और यहाँ पे उन्होंने इतनी सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन मांगी है. ये एनेक्सर ए जो आप देख रहे हैं, this is the information that they've asked for. Annual returns, copy of Gst 3B returns, 1 and 2 returns, 9 and 9C. उसके बाद detailed note on activities undertaken by you, detailed filled questionnaire, reports in form 3CEB, 3CD, 3CD, service tax returns for April 17 to June 17, GST Tran 1 return, electronic credit ledger, details of various heads of expenditure, copy of GST registration certificate, soft copy of sales ledger. I mean, just look at the data that they have asked for. It is humongous. It is literally exhaustive. It is so huge that it becomes difficult for companies to, even large MNCs, to collate this data within 15 days. And there's a questionnaire on the right. आपको ये questionnaire भरना है पूरा डिटेल में और फिर उनको देना है. So basically, audit is it's not a simple exercise to conduct for a consultant, for a chartered accountant, and for the company. So that's why, you know, while I was talking about section 61, I said that please try to close as many points as you can in 61 so that you don't have to go to 65. Now, what are the repercussions of not handling your, I'm sorry, yeah. So this is 65, special audit. 66. Now, special audit is what? Special audit is when during a scrutiny, investigations, inquiry, or any of these proceedings, कभी अगर assistant commissioner को लगता है that this case is complex, you know, we will not be able to do justice to this case or to the assessee, the assistant commissioner can do what? They can actually appoint a chartered accountant or a cost accountant to complete an audit on their behalf. Yes, so this is where a nominated chartered accountant and a cost accountant does the audit of any company, but they are appointed by, not by the assessee, but by the department. When is it required? If the value has not been correctly declared, if the credit availed is not within normal limits. Again, normal limits, I have no clue what this means, because normal limits for different sectors could mean different things. Something for a footwear sector could be normal, but for a airlines it could be abnormal. For a software company it could be normal, and so on and so forth. But what is normal limits? It has not been defined, and hence it's a gray area. Any officer above assistant commissioner can order this special audit. However, prior approval of commissioner is required before invoking this section. A time limit is that chartered accountant or cost accountant, whoever has been appointed, will have to submit this report by 90 days. Tarik pe tarik, another 90 days ka extension mil jata hai. Opportunity of being heard दी जाती है. CA और कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट्स की फीस इस केस में डिपार्टमेंट बेयर करती है, डिपार्टमेंट ही डिसाइड करती है और डिपार्टमेंट ही बेयर करती है. Why? So that the independence of the auditor is maintained. Because if the chartered accountant or cost accountant starts taking fees from the assessee, somebody could say that this is not a fair thing to do. So the department pays the fees. Section 73-74 can be initiated if there is a demand of tax. So again, 66 में कोई demand issue नहीं होती है. It is an independent audit. It can be initiated even if the taxpayer has been assessed or has been audited under other provisions. So this can be an additional audit for people. Okay, so now what happens if you do not handle your GST assessments and audits, right? I think we have discussed 73 and 74 a couple of times. 73 is when no fraud has been alleged, और उसका time limit 3 years होता है, जिसके अंदर उनका SCN आना जरूरी होता है. 74 is when they allege fraud and willful misstatement, and the time limit is 5 years from the date of annual filing return. इसके अलावा और एक और repercussion है, which generally doesn't come in the minds of people, and that is your assessment only yours? मतलब कल को let's say आपका audit हो रहा है या आपका assessment हो रहा है, will it be limited to you? I mean, क्योंकि उनको क्या होगा, once they start seeing your GSTR 2A or they start seeing your GSTR 3B, they realize, okay, so this is a big supplier for them. देखते हैं supplier कौन है. ऐसे करके एक chain बन सकती है. So your assessment can lead to somebody else's assessment in your ecosystem. It could be your supplier, it could be your customer, and it could be any other related party in your ecosystem. Okay, so with GST in place, with forms like GSTR 2A and the matching of credits, all of this can actually result in an assessment or audit being a spillover for other related parties, or not even related parties, but your parties who are in your ecosystem, your suppliers, your vendors, your customers, and other parties whom with you have agreements with. So I think it is very important to handle these right, so that they do not get a spillover to others. Key areas of verification. I have compiled a list of some areas. These are very common areas which we all know, but very important. So first is obviously your revenue streams, which are reflected in your financial statements. Are they offered to tax under GST? So this exercise we also do as a part of our GSTR 9 and 9C annual return. तो उसके अंदर आपको पता चल जाता है कि जितना आपके financial statements में दिख रहा है revenue, क्या उतना ही revenue आपके GST में आपने offer किया है tax को? अगर नहीं किया है, because most of the cases नहीं होता है वो match, तो अगर नहीं किया है तो क्यों नहीं किया है? Are there any branch transfers? Do you have any kind of non-GST income? There could be multiple reasons. So please have a backup of all those reasons ready. Because the first thing that the officer is going to do this, financial statements and GST return, well, revenue doesn't match. If you are offering your revenue to a lower rate item, please be aware that you need to have the right notifications in place. You need to check whether those notifications are actually effective even today. There's a good chance that rate rationalization में उस rate से वो निकल के कहीं और चला गया. So please be wary of that fact. Expenses which are incurred without any nexus to revenue streams. So I have an ice cream parlor and I go and buy a treadmill. This expense does not have any nexus with my revenue stream, right? So why have I bought it? Because it's a personal expenditure. So all your expenses which you are showing in your financial statements should have some or the other sort of connection with your revenue stream, because otherwise they will not be in furtherance of your business and you will not be eligible for the credits. Free of cost supplies between related parties. Schedule 1, very, very important, and one of the favorite areas for the officers to check. Employee transaction, another hot favorite. Employee transactions, itna sure hai employee transactions ke upar, so many ARs from different states with all different conclusions. Still nobody's has any clue what is CBIC's view, nobody knows. Notice pay recovery, canteen recovery, transportation gifts to employees. So you need to have your employee contracts in place, your vendor contracts, who's the vendor who's giving you transportation service or canteen services, your recovery slips in place. And you need to have a proper, maybe a legal opinion in place that why you are paying tax or why you are not paying tax. If you're paying tax, nobody will ask you, right? आप tax pay कर रहे हो, बहुत अच्छी बात है. नहीं pay कर रहे हो, it is always recommendatory that you should have a written opinion in place for this. People who are registered in more than one states. So you have a lot of branch locations, very commonly seen. Companies forget about distributing the common credits. So via ISD or cross charge, whatever it is, you need to do it on a periodical basis. Otherwise, the officers could come and say that ये जो HO में extra credit लिया है इसको reverse करो, और आप इसको branches में भी नहीं ले पाएंगे because in all likelihood उसका जो time है 30th September वाला और rather अब 30th November वाला वो निकल चुका होगा. So this is very important. One more important aspect here is that whenever you do a cross charge or an ISD, there needs to be an invoice in place. So that invoice you will have to generate internally. A lot of people, even though they distribute these credits, they do not raise invoices. So what will happen is when those branches will get audited, they will be asked for these invoices because in invoices ki basis pe unhone credit liya hoga, but they will not have those invoices. All this credit can be denied. So that will be a really silly thing कि हमारा internal credit ही हमने अपने आप को deny करवा दिया. Similarly, RCM transactions, they are also scrutinized very much in detail. Certain transactions which people miss out on is director remunerations. Very important. Director remuneration, if it is in the nature of salary, it is fine. But if it is not in the nature of salary, then you need to pay GST under RCM on it. Import of service. So sometimes we've seen that, the tax team is different and the payables team is different. So payables team import karti service, payment karti jati hai, and they're not even aware that they are supposed to offer this to tax. So it never comes to the tax team. Because of this miscommunication, people miss on reporting this and paying taxes on these services. So yes, you need to keep that in mind. Again, same point as above, self-invoicing needs to be done. If you do not raise self-invoices and tomorrow in any audit and assessment this comes up, you will not be eligible for any credit. Related party transactions could be analyzed because valuation aspect is very critical here. Although, if the recipient is eligible to take credit, typically there could not be too much of exposure here, but yes, this needs to be evaluated. ITC, okay. Sabki raatu ki neend uda dene wala topic hai ITC. With section 38 also being amended now in the budget, I think ITC is a very complex topic under GST. You need to have all your reconciliations in place, friends, and all your supplier contracts, all your supplier due diligences. I think this is the first time in the taxation regime that people are really talking about and thinking about vendor due diligences. That is this vendor correct? Iski ghar jaake dekho. Kya iska GST registration certificate hai? Iska place of business hai? What is he doing? Is he a fake supplier? I mean, really, it's going on another level. But yes, supplier has to be checked very. You need to have a supplier due diligence in place for all your major suppliers at least. Third point, okay, this till now was being ignored by officers, but now I think recently we've seen that assessments में ये बहुत जल्दी pick up होता है point. Time limit within which payment is made to vendors. So the law says that within 180 days, you should make payment to your vendors, okay? If you do not make payment to your vendors in 180 days, you need to reverse your credit. And once you make that payment, let's say आपने 8 महीने के बाद कर दिया, then you can reclaim that credit. So, first is आप reverse करना भूल जाते हो, दूसरा आप reclaim भी करना भूल जाते हो बहुत बार. So please keep that in mind that you need to reverse if you're not making payment within 180 days. Very importantly, companies don't even have a mechanism to track this. A lot of big companies don't have any mechanism. They say, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how to do it, how to track this. So you need to track this, you need to reverse your credit, and you need to reclaim. बहुत बार रिवर्स करके हम रिक्लेम करना भी भूल जाते हैं. सो इम्पोर्टेंटली रिक्लेम करने के लिए कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है बिकॉज आपने एक बार क्रेडिट अवेल करके रिवर्स किया है. सो यू कैन रिक्लेम इट एट एनी गिवन पॉइंट इन टाइम. नेक्स्ट इज ITC ट्रांजिशन. सो अभी हमने वो ऑर्डर में पढ़ा था, ट्रांजिशनल क्रेडिट्स जो आए हैं, आपको उसकी वर्किंग्स रखना बहुत जरूरी है. Transaction and securities, your corporate social responsibility, capital goods sale, personal use के लिए कुछ goods खरीदे हैं, anything which requires ITC reversal would be one point. Export of goods and services के case में, if you are saying that this supply is export, please ensure that all the conditions are being met. Place of supplies outside India, foreign currencies being received, correctness of refund claim, all of it could be scrutinized. Other data, again, internal audit report, cost audit report, transfer pricing report, your income tax returns, TDS returns, anything can be asked for. So these are the typical key areas of verifications. I think this is a penalty chart. 73 में अगर आपको कोई notice आता है जहाँ पे demand initiate की गई है, अगर आपने so basically 73 is the department is saying that yes, you are a bona fide taxpayer, आप सच बोल रहे हैं, ठीक है? तो अगर आपको वहां से नोटिस आ गया, अगर नोटिस आने से पहले ही आपने पे कर दिया, नील पेनल्टी. विदिन 30 days पे कर दिया, अगेन नील पेनल्टी. आफ्टर 30 days पे किया, so higher of 10% of tax demanded or 10,000. So it's a reasonable penalty. However, if they allege fraud on you, then the penalty increases. Before issuance of notice अगर आपने पे कर दिया, so जो ड्राफ्ट आया आपके पास में, ड्राफ्ट नोटिस, उसके बेसिस पे आपने पे कर दिया, तो 15% of the tax demanded is the penalty. Within 30 days अगर आप पे करते हैं, it is 25% of the tax demanded. After 30 days पे करते हैं, तो 50%. And in some cases where they feel that the issue is very grave, they could actually go ahead and levy a penalty of 100% on you. It's a huge penalty, 100% of tax demanded. So yeah, I mean, we need to be cautious because the punitive damages are really high here. Okay, so just like we did a quick test for all of you in GST assessments, I'd like to maybe ask 3 questions to you. Can the same assessee be subject to an audit or assessment by both authorities, central and state? तो क्या आप एक असेसी हैं कि आपको सेंटर और स्टेट दोनों से ऑडिट असेसमेंट का नोटिस सेम पीरियड के लिए आ सकता है? मिस्टर हर्षल सेज नो. Anybody else? I'm waiting for other people to really join the chat wagon. Okay, Mr. Shubham says no. Okay, I'll just wait for another 10 seconds. It's just a yes and no question, please, friends. Answer. Okay, so I'll probably give an answer to this. Both authorities shall have the power to take intelligence-based enforcement action in respect of one assessee. However, 2 separate officers from different jurisdictions cannot audit or assess the same assessee for a given period. So I think Mr. Harshal and Mr. Shubham, you were absolutely right. There was an instruction which was issued in 2019 जिसमें ये बोला गया था कि अगर इंटेलिजेंस-बेस्ड एनफोर्समेंट एक्शन है, मतलब कहीं से कोई टिप आई है, कोई खबर पता चली है और ये एनफोर्समेंट एक्शन है, मतलब इन्वेस्टिगेशन है, तो दोनों में से कोई भी अथॉरिटी आपके अगेंस्ट एक्शन ले सकती है. लेकिन अगर ये नॉर्मल ऑडिट और असेसमेंट है, तो 2 सेपरेट ऑफिसर्स आपको सेम पीरियड के लिए नोटिस नहीं इशू कर सकते हैं. Although there are some case laws which says that they can do it. So there is no clear instruction on this, but there are judicial proceedings. Does the audit officer always visit business premises? ऑडिट ऑफिसर क्या हमेशा हमारे बिजनेस प्रीमाइसेस पे आके ऑडिट करता है, या क्या उसको जरूरी है हमारे ऑफिस आके बिजनेस प्रीमाइसेस पे ऑडिट करना? नॉट नेसेसरी. पायल, थैंक यू. Not necessary. Again, Mr. Padam Chandra Gupta says no. Wow, I'm glad that so many people are interacting finally. Yes, you're right. It is not necessary for an officer. Desk audit review is also acceptable. He can complete his entire audit on his desk and never come to your business premises whatsoever. Okay, availing incorrect ITC and reflecting it in ECL. So this is a case law, and that's what I'm asking you this question. Is this an enough ground for initiating recovery? आपको ऑडिट का नोटिस आया और उन्होंने बोला हम आपका 73 में रिकवरी इनिशिएट करेंगे क्योंकि आपने आईटीसी ले लिया गलत और आपने उसको ईसीएल में दिखा दिया है. I'm so sorry. Is this enough ground for initiating recovery? Okay, yes. Spkr says utilization is required. All right. So yes, Spkr, you are absolutely right. Utilization is required. Mere availment will not amount to an act of availment for initiating proceedings. This was held by Patna High Court in one of the cases. Okay. Moving on, there are some rights and duties for a taxpayer. So I'll quickly take you through these rights. जैसे ही आपके पास ऑडिट का नोटिस आता है, ऑडिट पार्टी आपके बिजनेस प्रेमाइसेस पे आती है, सबसे पहले आप क्या करेंगे? You will verify the identity of all the members. So you do not want to be a part of Special 26 movie Special 26 Part 2, right? So पहले please check कर लीजिए वो लोग genuine है, they are really from their department. Ask the audit team to complete the audit within prescribed timelines. We discussed the timelines before, so I'm not really dwelling upon it again. Ask for a reasonable time. 7 से 15 दिन is a reasonable time. आप ये नहीं बोल सकते मैं 2 महीने बाद डेटा दूंगा, अभी तो हमारा बहुत सीजन चल रहा है, we don't have time. No, 7 to 15 days is a reasonable time, and you need to furnish the data within reasonable time. Submission of documents, this is your right. You can submit documents in soft copies. I mean, it's not, if they say नहीं हमें hard ही चाहिए, you can say sir नहीं हो पाएगा, आप soft में ले लीजिए via registered email address. You can seek adjournment if you think that you will not be able to appear for any kind of hearing for some unavoidable circumstances, of course. You can also request for a copy of audit findings within a month, okay, from the date when the audit was concluded, and the same should be in writing. This is a very, very important bit. They cannot just send you some WhatsApp message or some paper pe likh ke aise nahi. It should be an official document that you should receive, right? You can make voluntary tax payments, because once you come to know that humne galti ki hai, okay, I will go ahead and I will make payments so that my interest meter stops and the penalty is also limited. You have a right of being heard. Principle of natural justice prevails every time. So yeah, what are your duties? Very simple. Please furnish all the information within time. Please appoint one person as a single point contact who can coordinate, so the audit team does not have to run here and there. Abhi ye data kisse lu, wo data kisse lu. Have one single point in contact. Make him your representative and ask him to coordinate directly with the audit team. Because क्या होता है जब आप बहुत सारे लोगों से coordinate करते हो, they get irritated. So we do not want to do that. Yeah. Furnish documents with signatures and seals. Do not furnish loose documents, print kiya aur de diya. Don't do that. It should have your necessary signatures, seals, authorized signatories के साथ में cover letter होना चाहिए. Cover letter पे सारे appendices की list होनी चाहिए. And cover letter पे acknowledgement लेके आपको एक copy आपके पास रखनी है. This proves to be a very, very helpful thing. I mean, we should all make it a practice, because कल को कोर्ट में जाके उन्होंने बोल दिया नहीं इन्होंने ये डॉक्यूमेंट दिए ही नहीं. How will we establish that we have submitted this? Because we will have an acknowledgement on that cover letter. Additional and non-relevant information should not be furnished. Do not dump extra data on them. This technique really doesn't work. Assessee must furnish all submissions on official email ID. WhatsApp, Gmail is unofficial channels. Ideally, you should not communicate with officers on those channels because they are not binding. You have to keep your records and books for 6 years. You have to maintain them from the due date of furnishing of annual returns for the year pertaining to such account. So 6 years tak aapko aapke you have to maintain your books of accounts. Now, I'm just going to quickly discuss with you a couple of case laws that I have pulled out, and it's going to be an interesting discussion here. So in the case of Golden Mesh Industries, the Telangana High Court had decided this case. What had happened was that the assessee did not file their GSTR 3B for November 18. अब जब return नहीं file करते हैं, तो सबसे पहले कौन सा notice आता है? हमने अभी discuss किया था, notice is issued under 46. So उनको January 19 में एक notice issue हो गया, and the petitioners did not comply with the said notice. So then उसके बाद क्या होता है? 15 दिन में नहीं आपने reply किया तो एक best judgment का notice आ गया. 62 में best judgment assessment हो गया. Best judgment कैसे किया GST authorities ने? उन्होंने they determined the tax. How? They multiplied the average monthly SGST collection by 3 times. So for example, if your SGST collection was 1.5 lakhs, they said that, okay, for this month, November के लिए आपका collection है 4.5 lakhs, 1.5 in SGST, 1.5 in CGST and 1.5 in IGST. ऐसे करके 4.5 लाख रुपए आप tax भर दो और 100% penalty भर दो. This was the best judgment done. Now, obviously, the order was appealed against. Appeal नहीं hold up हो पाई. So finally, writ petition file की गई तेलंगाना हाई कोर्ट में. तेलंगाना हाई कोर्ट ने बोला, in case of best judgment assessment, a clear basis for computation of liability is required. You cannot just wake up from your sleep one day and decide आज मैं इस assessee के ऊपर 4 लाख रुपए का tax ठोकूंगा. No, that cannot be done. Your basis cannot be arbitrary. It cannot be vague. You need to have your reasons in writing. and only then you can do a best judgment assessment. So पहली बात तो उन्होंने ये जो 4.5 लाख का टैक्स है उसको पॉश कर दिया. दूसरी बात उन्होंने बोली ये 100% पेनल्टी आपने किस खुशी में लगाई है. So they set the order was set aside and de novo adjudication करने के लिए बोला गया, मतलब शुरू से वापस रिमांड बैक हुआ मैटर. This was held in Telangana High Court. Next is Madras High Court के केस में. So this is a very important point, and I think that's why I included this. NCR Corporation India Private Limited and Madras High Court में ये केस decide हुआ था. The facts were that the petitioner, was not happy with their assessment order. Happens so commonly with everybody, and they said that this has been passed in violation of constitutional provisions. हमको ये उन्होंने अपील भी किया एंड अपील उनका रादर उन्होंने अपील ही नहीं किया, उन्होंने सीधा रिट पिटिशन फाइल कर दिया हाई कोर्ट में. सो हाई कोर्ट ने क्या बोला? हाई कोर्ट सेड दैट प्रेफरिंग एन अपील इज द रूल. ओके, द लॉ टेल्स यू, आपको एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी ने असेसमेंट ऑर्डर दिया है तो अभी आप जाइए अपील फाइल करिए इफ यू आर नॉट हैप्पी विद इट, इफ यू डू नॉट एग्री विद इट. सो प्रेफरिंग एन अपील इज द रूल. Entertaining a writ petition before exhausting the option to appeal is an exception. Okay, you can only file a writ when you have exhausted all your options of appeal, because appeal is an efficacious method of remedy for people who are aggrieved by an order. Okay, तो आप सीधा जाके हाई कोर्ट का डोर्स नहीं नॉक कर सकते हैं. ओके, आई एम नॉट हैप्पी विद दिस असेसमेंट ऑर्डर, प्लीज गिव मी अ रिट पिटिशन, आई विल नॉट अपील. दैट इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल. हाई कोर्ट साइड आपको पहले जाके अपने सारे अपील रेमेडीज जितनी भी है उनको एग्जॉस्ट करना पड़ेगा. अगर आपकी अपील नहीं एडमिट हो रही है या आपकी अपील रिजेक्ट हो जाती है तो आप हमारे पास आ सकते हो. डायरेक्टली यू कैन नॉट कम टू द हाई कोर्ट. सो इमिनेंट थ्रेट, this is the language that was actually used in the case law, and it is very interesting. Imminent threat or gross injustice warranting urgent relief to be granted. The statutory appellate authorities are the final fact-finding authorities. Dispensing with the appellate remedy is to be granted cautiously, because the very purpose and object of legislation providing an appellate remedy cannot be diluted, nor the benefit be denied to the aggrieved person to exhaust the same. So basically, High Court said that we cannot dilute the importance of appellate authorities. अगर सब लोग आके High Court में writ petition file करेंगे, what is the point of having an appellate procedure in place, right? So this was in the case of NCR Corporation. The next is again Madras High Court, and this was the case of EPMS Property Services versus the State Tax Officer. Here what had happened was an ex parte assessment order was passed. Ex parte assessment is when there is no interaction between an assessee and the adjudicating officer. बिना किसी इंटरेक्शन के एक्स पार्टे असेसमेंट ऑर्डर पास कर दिया. प्रॉबेबली बिकॉज उन्होंने कुछ नोटिस इशू किया होगा, असेसी की साइड से कोई रिप्लाई नहीं आया होगा. दैट्स टिपिकली व्हेन एक्स पार्टे असेसमेंट ऑर्डर्स आर पास्ड. स्टैट्यूटरी अपील वाज फाइल्ड, उसके अगेंस्ट अपील फाइल हुई बट विद अ डिले ऑफ 30 days. कॉन्डमनेशन वाज आल्सो सॉट बट अपील वाज रिजेक्टेड. सो एक्स पार्टे असेसमेंट हुआ और जो असेसी था उन्होंने appeal file ki, but it was with a delay of 30 days. They sought for condemnation, it was not granted, so a writ petition was filed. Petitioner ne court mein bola that I have a medical certificate to prove that I was on bed rest. I could not really appear for this hearing. I could not respond to this notice, and also pandemic had struck by then, and there was no way where I could really go and appear before the authorities. So the court took a softer stand here. The court said that an effective opportunity of being heard needs to be given to any taxpayer, and it was not given in this case. The court also took cognizance of the fact that the assessee was not in a position to defend its case due to medical reasons, and hence this order was set aside and it was remanded back. So typically in all these case laws, there is a common thing that comes out. That आपको अपील मैकेनिज्म को हमेशा एक्सप्लॉइट करना है, या एक्सप्लोर करना है, और उसके बाद ही आप हाई कोर्ट के पास जा सकते हैं. पहली चीज, बिना अपील मैकेनिज्म को एक्सप्लोर करिए, यू कैन नॉट गो टू द हाई कोर्ट एंड फाइल अ रिट पिटिशन. दैट इज नॉट हाउ द लॉ वर्क्स. Number 2, wherever you feel that principle of natural justice has not been adhered to, you've not been given a reasonable opportunity of being heard, you've not been given with a reasonable time to really present your defenses, then also you can appeal against it, or you can go to the high court, as the case may be. The next case is in the case of Mukhiya Ji Ply, and this was given by Patna High Court. In this case, again, petitioner was issued an ex parte assessment order. Petitioner preferred an appeal against the said order, which was also rejected by the appellate authority. So यहाँ पे देखिए उन्होंने अपील फाइल की है, पर अपील रिजेक्ट हो गई. So then they filed a writ for quashing the assessment order. Now High Court observed that although आपके पास एक appellate remedy थी, efficacious remedy was available to you, but still I will interfere in this. The court is not precluded from interfering. So the court decided that it will interfere in this case. क्यों? क्योंकि दो reasons थे. ये order bad in law है. Why? Because one, natural justice principle was not followed, fair opportunity of hearing was not given, sufficient time was not given. And number two, in case of ex parte assessment orders, the order does not have sufficient reason. मतलब order की copy देख के High Court ने बोला कि इसके ऊपर कोई रीजन हमें समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि ऑर्डर एक्स पार्टे पास ही क्यों हुए, आपने क्यों नहीं बुलाया एसएससी को, आपने क्यों उनकी साइड की स्टोरी नहीं सुनी, एंड आपने डायरेक्टली यू डिटरमिन द अमाउंट ड्यू एंड पेबल बाय द एसएससी. So these were the two reasons due to which the High Court said that we are going to interfere here and we are going to set this aside, even if there was an efficacious remedy available. Yeah, so this is the last case law that we're going to do today, and it is a very, very interesting one. This case law was given by Kerala High Court in the case of Soft Touch Health. So what had happened was that Soft Touch ने एक petition file की थी High Court में, Kerala High Court में, और उन्होंने बोला था कि हमको assessment order का copy नहीं मिला, और हमको नहीं मिला, और इसकी वजह से हम लोग 30 days में return नहीं file कर पाए under section 62. 62 is best judgment for non-filers of return. So जब हमने return file किया, जैसे ही हमें मिला, within 30 days we filed the returns, and hence this order should be deemed to be withdrawn. So this was the plea. Now the High Court heard this petition. Revenue की साइड से ऐसा बोला गया कि जैसे ही order pass हुआ था उसको web portal पे upload कर दिया गया था. हमने वो एक question भी किया आज. And I think it was effectively served. The revenue said it was effectively served, and still they did not file a return within 30 days. So High Court said, then there is no case for you, and they decided the petition against the petitioner. कि नहीं, आपका order withdrawn नहीं माना जाएगा. After maybe a few months, एक similar और दूसरा petition आया Kerala High Court के पास, जिसके अंदर Kerala High Court को ये पता चला that there was a gap of timing. जिस डेट पे ऑर्डर इशू होता है और जिस डेट पे ऑर्डर अपलोड होता है वेब पोर्टल में, उसमें डिफरेंस है. It is not done on a live basis. It is not done on the same day. There is a gap. So the Kerala High Court realized its mistake. So they thought back कि हमने soft touch के केस में उनके against ये petition decide किया था. So what they did is truly, I think, applaudable. They reviewed that petition again. They called it back. Suo motu उन्होंने वापस बुलाया उनको और बोला कि we have come to we know that it is not being uploaded live on the portal. So we are going to decide this petition. We are going to review it, and we are going to decide it in your favor. And we that assessment order shall deem to be vacated, और हम इसको de novo adjudication करेंगे. So the High Court noted that a litigant ought not to suffer on account of a mistake committed by the court, more so when the court itself is convinced that a mistake did occur. Therefore, the court suo motu recalled the petition and they allowed it. I think this was a very, very interesting case law. Okay, friends, I think this was all from my session. I think Lokesh ji initially mentioned, so this is one of our books that has come out on the similar topic, GST Assessments and Audits. It's been authored by Mr. Jigar Doshi and myself, and it has been published by Tax Sutra and Bharat Law. It is available on the Tax Sutra website and also on Amazon now. So in case you like the presentation, you liked our views, you can go and order. I think we can move, Lokesh ji, Namit ji, I think we can move to Q&A.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Yeah, anybody having a question or any questions about today's session? May I ask, ma'am?
दो चीजें हो सकती है, या तो सेशन बहुत अच्छा हुआ है, किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है, या सेशन बहुत बोरिंग था इसलिए कोई कुछ पूछ नहीं रहा है.
मैम नॉलेज आपके जितनी नहीं है किसी को भी यहाँ पे.
No, 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 not at all. Okay, so somebody has asked a question. Can the tenure of finalization of provisional assessment be extended? Yes, as I mentioned, it can be extended for another 6 months by the ECJC and by 4 years by the commissioner. Within which period ITC can be reclaimed? Okay, I think ITC can be reclaimed when you're talking, I think so, just correct me if I'm wrong, but आप शायद 180 days वाले provision की बात कर रहे हैं जहाँ पे हमने ITC reverse किया था. So that can be reclaimed till any period. Once you make payment, you can reclaim that ITC because आपका first availment, if it is within time limit, law के हिसाब से आपने already ITC correctly ले लिया. Yes, reversed. Yeah, so I answered that. DRC 01 could be replied or it would show on portal. Sorry, I did not understand this question. Could you please explain what you're trying to say? आप ये पूछना चाहते हैं कि DRC 01 portal पे आता है या नहीं? I think so. Is it available on portal? Yes, it is available on portal. DRC 01 is because it is a part of your show cause notice.
May write in the chat box if there is any question.
We have received mail only. Very well, you are lucky. आपको mail पे आया है, लोगों को नहीं आता है. So people have that complaint कि हमें time पे नहीं मिला है. Okay, ITC availed and reversed in same month due to non-payment. Is there any interest applicable? So you're saying that ITC was availed and reversed in the same month. Why was it reversed? What was the reason? Non-payment to vendors. Is there any interest applicable? No.
Anybody else?
Is ITC should claim on basis of 2A or 2B or actual invoice basis? So sir, the law says you should avail ITC now on the basis of 2B from 1st January 2022.
Friends, come on, we are waiting.
Obviously, litigation will grow and so will our practices, right? Okay, jokes apart, but the way things are going, the amendments that are coming, the law is becoming more and more complex each day. And I mean, litigations are bound to grow when the law is complex. There's a long question, I'll just read it out. Received a system generated email that late fees for FY 17-18 and 18-19 was auto calculated incorrectly by the portal. The email stated amount to be paid using DRC 03, but no notice or demand is appearing on the portal. So can we ignore the email till we receive a notice, or will have to pay the amount based on the email? I think Harshalji, I'll have to look at that email before answering this question, because what else or what sections have been invoked, that will have to be evaluated. ITC availed is higher to 2B due to reclaim of ITC. Any penalty for this? No. So if you have reclaimed your ITC which had previously appeared on your 2B, तो पहले आपने correct लिया, उसको reverse किया, and बाद में later on if you're reclaiming, yeah, I mean a question could arise कि ये higher क्यों है 2B से? You should have your reasons in place. You can say that we had actually reversed it and this is a reclaim of ITC. So as long as you have reasons, there is nothing to worry about.
Any other question related to today's session?
Reconciliation of TDS, AS with Gst 1 can be asked by AO. Yes, yes. Anything can be asked. As I said, GST is a regime of reconciliations. So yeah, anything can be asked.
I think, ma'am, we should conclude it.
Sure, sure.
I would like to invite now Nikita Kayal to conclude the session. Nikita, I think it is unmute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Nikita Maheshwari, for such an enlightening presentation on the right way of GST assessment and audit that inspired so many people out there. It was a great pleasure to listen to your wise words and learn so much from it. I take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of the entire administration who were captivated by your talk. We appreciate having this mysterious area clarified by you. I have a small token of appreciation for you, CA Nikita Maheshwari. Please accept it with your sincere thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nikita. I will never forget your name, right?
Yeah,
And,
same here.
Yeah, namesake. Thank you,
Yeah.
Amitji, and
Thank
you,
you.
ICI
Thank you so
Jaipur
much.
branch. Thank you,
Thank
you so
much.
Lokeshji, for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Request, I just, can we end the session now?